Welcome back to the Geek Fix right here on Thinking Critical Patreon. The first 20 minutes or so will be up on the YouTubes, I believe, on Friday. My good friend, as always, is Aaron Sparrow, the man everyone loves more than me now. It's starting to get irritating.
That's impossible, Wes. Everybody loves you.
People were fighting over who liked you more in the comments.
What? Where did this happen?
In the comments section, Aaron, you know where it happened. I saw that you liked it. You gave it.
Well, I maybe saw the first part where someone said I like Aaron Sparrow, and I was like, oh, thank you,
Yeah.
But I didn't see
people
that
got in an argument over it. It was ridiculous.
Well, you know
Nobody
what? Angel to some,
me like that.
Angel to some, demon to others. You know why? Because everybody already likes you. Everybody's willing to share you.
Not exactly the case, and I do not want to be passed around like the town bike or whatever. No sharing on the West Dog. Now, we do have some interesting things happening with Hasbro. We talked about this, I think, about a year and a half ago, where Hasbro decided, despite having their most profitable quarter in the history of the company or whatever, it was time to start raising the prices. And you said this is a very bad idea. And it turns out it was a very bad idea. And the fact that they are over leveraged on Disney absolutely has destroyed them. And now they are laying off 20% of their workforce starting right before Christmas. Absolutely terrible timing.
Yeah. And they had already laid off part of their workforce earlier in the year. So they had this idea coming out of the pandemic that, they had made so much money that they were like, oh, this is just, we're unstoppable. We're a juggernaut. Well, you know what? We've got to increase shareholder value. We've got to make even more money. How can we do that? Can we, start some new product lines that maybe people will be interested in? Can we, innovate, in the things that we're doing? Can we offer better product? No, let's raise prices. That was their idea. It was an artificial bump in pricing because they just thought that everything they were doing was so hot. And they quickly found out that that wasn't the case. And now they're dumping stuff to Ollie's for pennies on the dollar. You can buy a $120, retail MSRP Black Panther helmet. You can get it for $20 at Ross right now.
Is that where you got yours?
No, I don't buy the helmets and stuff.
You don't do the helmets?
Nah,
they're not that cool. They're not even action figures or whatever. So we do have some of the
I'll
details.
Get a Captain America shield.
These are the details that we do have. Hasbro is laying off almost 20% of its workforce, and amid lackluster sales during the crucial holiday shopping season, the toy and game maker said Monday, today we are announcing additional headcount reductions as part of our previously communicated strategic transformation, affecting approximately 1,100 colleagues globally, in addition to roughly 800 reductions already taken. Hasbro CEO Chris Cox told employees Monday in a memo, and the other 800 on top of the 1,100 actually makes it more like 29%, so almost a full third of their entire workforce being let off. Because sales are not good for the holiday season. It turns out the recession has not been good. And then that increase in price, which you've seen certainly in comic books as well, has been prohibitive to people going in and buying the products.
Yeah, some of the other problems that they have is they basically butchered the D&D brand by kowtowing to a bunch of people who don't have any money on Twitter, demanding representation, demanding this, demanding that, the DMs have to ask for consent before they kill your character, due to some actions that, on the dice roll. They're just taking chance out of the game. They're putting in things like, oh, you guys want to go to prom? We'll set it up so that there's a prom. And, all of those are things that you could have done in D&D if you wanted to, but it didn't make it to the core rule book. They didn't have to strip out the fact that the orcs were a savage race of warriors that were mostly evil. They didn't have to put in little caveats for people's feelings. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So they leaned into that. There was multiple scandals, like for example, G.I. Joe fans were pissed that at a convention, the lady that was conducting the panel asked them to give their pronouns when they stood up. The G.I. Joe collector base is like guys in their 40s or older. Mm-hmm. Most of them aren't on Twitter. They don't even know what any of that means. So, it's just ridiculous. They sent Pinkerton thugs to a kid's house who ordered their Magic the Gathering cards online, got sent a case that wasn't supposed to be released yet. And because he put it out there that he got them, they sent these guys to his house to scare him and intimidate him. They've just made all sorts of poor decisions. And so what should happen is that Chris Cox should get gone. That guy should be fired, sent packing, as well as several executives that have made all these stupid decisions. But that never happens. What happens is the low-level workers, the people that have nothing to do with tanking the company, they're the ones who get their jobs cut right before Christmas.
That's crazy. They sent the Pinkertons, the same people they sent after like Billy the Kid and like the James gang, the James Younger gang back in the day, who were murdering people all over America and robbing banks. They sent the same organization after a little kid because they sent him the wrong box of cards.
Well, I say little kid. I say kid because everybody's a kid to me now. But he was a young guy. He's a young guy that's a Magic the Gathering enthusiast. Do you think he wants to play your game anymore? Do you think the people that heard about that want to play your game anymore?
He wasn't robbing banks and killing people. You sent him the goddamn box.
Yeah, you sent him the product, or one of your retailers did. It happens. Sometimes things leak. You got to deal with it. But what you don't do is you don't send a bunch of, like non-law enforcement thugs over to his house to intimidate him. Now, see, if they would have come to my house, I would have told him, you have no authority here. Go piss up a rope and send him packing. But, young guy, he doesn't know some guys show up on his doorstep demanding that he do these things on behalf of Hasbro. He gets scared.
Man, Dog the Bounty Hunter shows up on your doorstep and says, give me your level 5 water sprite. You're going to give it up, man. It's Dog the fucking Bounty Hunter. He's intimidating.
It's just what a ridiculous thing for a company to do. And then on top of that, like you said earlier, they're highly leveraged with these Disney brands like Star Wars, which comes with a hefty licensing fee. And for the life of me, I don't know why anymore. That licensing fee should be so rock bottom now, because that is what Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm have turned Star Wars into, just a rock bottom property. So they've got that. They've got Marvel, which is failing. They're forced by. Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me people weren't interested in buying Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Photon action figures to go with the big movie this year?
They went clearance before the movie even came out.
Was that like a record time? Like, did they even try and sell them at MSRP?
Not anymore. And what they've done is they've trained fans to know that these things are going to go clearance quickly. They're going, the bottom's going to drop out. They're going to be at Ollie's, so people aren't buying them anymore. I've seen so a couple of G.I. Joe figures have shown up at Ross. And the reason that they've shown up is because they were the ones that were kind of like stuck when everything was backed up during the pandemic and we had all those supply chain issues. So they were stuck out on boats. They arrived late. It kind of killed the momentum of them. And so a lot of those particular figures have ended up at Ross and on clearance, and some stuff has shown up at Ollie's and things like that. And there's G.I. Joe fans and G.I. Joe groups that I'm in that are saying like, well, I'm never paying more than $7 for a G.I. Joe figure again. That's what you've trained the consumer to do. Now, I know that'll kill the line. So if you love the line, you're going to kill it by waiting for clearance. But that's what the customer mindset is now. Why would I ever pay full price?
But think about like Marvel over the last, let's say since the end of Endgame, the end of Phase 3, Phase 4 into Phase 5, they've introduced several new properties. We got the Eternals, we got Shang-Chi, we got Miss Marvel. There is another movie in there that I'm absolutely forgetting. But they had several new movies, several new TV shows that you would think would reinvigorate the line, but they completely missed the mark on who their audience was. And shockingly, their indifference to the movies and streaming shows ended up going over to the toys. So not only does Disney destroy the entire Marvel brand just as far as streaming and movies, they end up fucking Hasbro over in the process because they're obligated to buy all these toys that no one was interested in on day one.
Do you want to know why the Disney HasLab Rancor failed? It failed because of Disney's interference. They put out the Rancor. Everybody expected that they would get the Rancor Keeper and that they would get a figure of Ula, the slave girl from Jabba's palace. They were telling Hasbro, no Ula, no Mula. If there's not an Ula tier, I'm not backing this. And Hasbro was doing everything they could to try and entice people. They even announced a Rancor Keeper at the end out of kind of like desperation. But they were not allowed to put out an Ula figure. Lucasfilm would not allow it because she's a slave girl. She's a slave girl and she's too sexily dressed. They're not allowed to put out Leia in the bikini anymore from Return of the Jedi. Because it's like the most famous scene. Yeah, it's the most iconic thing. And by the way, she chokes Jabba out in that outfit. They even changed the name of it. Him. In the different merch, they changed the name of it, or the different when you're not allowed to reference her as Slave Leia anymore, which is what everybody kind of like coined from Murderer Leia. And now it's Hutt Slayer Leia, which is fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. She did kill Jabba the Hutt in that outfit. And that's fine. But the fact that they wouldn't even allow Ula to be released killed the Rancor. They insisted that HasLab put out that Reva lightsaber for Obi-Wan, and call it the Reva lightsaber instead of just calling it the Inquisitor lightsaber, because that's all it is. It's just the lightsaber that all the Inquisitors from Rebels carry. They insisted that it be called the Reva lightsaber, and the backlash to that was so heavy that failed too. So Disney right now, you can go to my Targets and they are just loaded with what if figures. You can't even sell the Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin from Hawkeye, even though he looks more like he did when he was on Daredevil. He's not in the stupid Hawaiian shirt or anything like that. He's in the white, and the purple pants, and he looks like he did on Daredevil. And you can't even sell that figure very well because nobody watches Disney Plus. And so doing a line of figures, you want to get an Agatha Harkness figure? I like that actress a lot. But I don't want an Agatha Harkness figure unless I can pop the head off and do my own custom old lady Agatha Harkness from the comic books and snap it on there, but it's not the right outfit. So it's like, it's just they're not only shooting themselves in the foot with their stupid corporate decisions, but they're so heavily leveraged with Disney, and Disney is such a disaster, and Disney is so controlling over what they're allowed to release that they're dooming Hasbro as well.
We do have a few more details. The decision comes after softer than expected toy sales for the first 9 months of 2023, with the difficulties expected to continue into next year. He wrote, Hasbro makes toys and games, including Monopoly, Dungeons & Dragons, and Play-Doh. Inflation and the resumption of the student loan payments are taking a bite out of many households' disposable income. Morgan Stanley wrote in a recent research note looking at the sluggish holiday retail sales. Who would have known student loan payments are really the reason behind this? It's not that you're too leveraged on properties that are basically dead. It's not that you raise the prices. Is that people are finally having to pay off their student loans again?
Who wrote this press release? Bob Iger? It's just like, macroeconomic headwinds and with COVID and not enough executives in the room making the decision, overseeing this diverse director. It's just excuses. It's, you screwed up your packaging. You went to a closed box packaging. You said it was for ecological reasons because you're so ecologically minded. The real reason is it's cheaper. You can make a few more pennies on the dollar by reverting this packaging instead of having window packaging.
You want to see what the figure looks like. How's the head look? What's the molding look like? Does it look like the actual actor? Or is it just some stock head that they put on there that was actually from He-Man?
Are all the accessories included? If I bought it at Target, did somebody buy it, take the figure out, put something else in it, and return it? These are all things that that happen. These are all things that collectors look for. And a big problem is with the closed box packaging, Hasbro's QC also went down. You were getting bad paint apps. You were getting figures that would break out of the package. Their Dungeons and Dragons cartoon line notoriously just broke right out of the package because they had really brittle joints. The paint jobs on a lot of the stuff was bad. Multiple things that I bought from the Marvel line that were in closed box packaging were missing accessories. The reason that happens is when you have a bubble and the person at the factory that's putting the accessories in the bubble can immediately look and get a visual representation of what needs to go there and make sure that it's all there. When you're doing closed box packaging, all they're doing is putting it in a little baggie. It's really easy to miss stuff. So I've bought stuff that doesn't have accessories. I got the Circe Black Knight 2-pack off of Amazon. Didn't come with Black Knight's sword. I tried to contact Amazon to ask about it.
He's worthless without the sword.
He's worthless without the sword. And it tells you, oh, well, Marvel takes care of this themselves. Click on this link so that you can contact Marvel customer service. You click on that link, it takes you to Marvel Unlimited. There's no customer service there for toys. So you can't even return it to Amazon.
The app for comics?
Yeah, the app for comics. It takes you to Marvel Unlimited. There's nowhere there. No, I didn't. I already own I own pretty much all of the comics that I care about. I don't need to read them digitally, and I certainly don't want to read anything that they're putting out now. So, no, I didn't sign up.
It's crazy. We talk about, at Marvel, they've introduced so much new stuff. None of that's really taken. And you can say the exact same thing about Star Wars. They have gone back to a lot of characters that we know. But, like Obi-Wan isn't a show about Obi-Wan. It is a show about Reva. That didn't really work out. They've introduced all these new characters in the third season of The Mandalorian. It's actually made people not like The Mandalorian, and we've seen sales on Baby Yoda actually die because of all this kind of stuff. It does not appear that Ahsoka was a very well-received show, and it certainly didn't appear to result in widespread sales of extra merchandise and stuff like that. So it just feels like they're just whipping across the board and destroying their business partners, in this case Hasbro, who certainly hurt themselves with a lot of their business decisions. But it doesn't help when some of your biggest brands are just absolute duds too.
Yeah, and the brands that they do own, G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe's doing fairly well, except for the fact that now collectors think that they can just wait for clearance. Transformers, still pretty strong, but even that's like kind of running out of steam right now.
Transformers is really expensive if you want to buy a Transformer for your kid. It's almost too expensive to give it to your child, and my kid loves Transformers.
Yeah, and it's annoying too because if they're very little, you have to keep transforming it for them. They're going to keep bringing it to you and be like, "Can you make it a truck? Can you make it a robot? Can you make it a truck? Can you make it a robot?" Until they learn to do it themselves. And the only
ones that are in that price range essentially break immediately. Anything that's a little bit complex and is pretty cool, it's like at least $40 at a minimum, and that is a lot of money for a toy for a child.
Yeah, for something that they're going to have out in the mud.
Yeah, and obviously there's an enormous collector's market, but there are so many other manufacturers out there that do way higher quality stuff than just Hasbro. Yes, they do have HasLab, and they do have some of their higher quality lineups and stuff like that. But there's so many other companies out there that are doing really cool toys at a really high level that are blowing Hasbro out of the water, where they can't really compete along in like the high priced collectible market either.
Todd McFarlane has held the line on his pricing for as long as possible, keeping the figures in the sweet spot of that $20 range. And he does unique sculpts on most of his figures. Hasbro reuses a lot of bodies, which, when you're doing superheroes, I don't have a big problem with. It's a very easy thing to do. You throw some accessories on and you can reuse a lot of parts, save some money. Don't have a problem with that. But keep it around that sweet spot of $20. The problem is they got greedy. And I told people this. It's like once they went from $15 to $20, and they learned that you would pay $20. And the reason that they did that was because they said, oh, well, oil is that was when oil was shooting through the roof. And they were like, it's costing us more for the plastics, so we have to raise prices. I was like, but those prices will never come down. When oil comes down, it'll never come down because now you've been trained to pay $20 and they're going to take that extra money. They're never going to pass those savings on to you. Same thing with them going to 25. But now at 25, people are rejecting it. It's going to Ollie's. People are getting them for $5.99.
Another thing they said, I was reading up on some of the issues they were having, and they were like, well, we decided we would stop selling our products to Russia because of the Russia-Ukraine thing. I guess make a stand or whatever. And we've lost a lot of sales that way. It was like, who told you to go out there and stop doing business with people because they have bad PR on Twitter? That's not our problem. Why are you passing the price on to us when that's your decision?
Yeah, this is the problem with trying to be, quote unquote, woke, which, it doesn't even mean anything anymore because it's got so many meanings. But, the audience kind of knows what when you go out and you're trying to be an activist instead of being a company that provides entertainment product to people. This is what you get. We're seeing it with every single company that has gone out and tried to do it. We've watched Bud Light. We've watched Disney. We've watched all of these companies like just completely fall over themselves to, as Elon Musk said, have the appearance of being good while doing evil.
It's like, what do you think? You're a gun company? You're not selling them weapons? Like, get out of here. You're a toy company. You're an entertainment company. Now, you did mention McFarlane. McFarlane Toys and Hasbro announced a multi-brand deal that will see new figures released from some of Hasbro's most iconic franchises. The McFarlane Toys and Hasbro collaboration will see figures released as part of McFarlane's Toy Page Punchers lineup, which includes a full comic book and 2 articulated figures each. Expected to launch in 2024, the collaboration will begin with Transformers and G.I. Joe products. Fans can also expect Page Puncher toys, including the Power Rangers and Dungeons and Dragons franchises, to follow up at a later date. So at least they're making some smart deals. I do believe a lot of people will enjoy that.
Hasbro doesn't seem to want to physically make toys anymore. They seem to want to kind of be an IP farm.
Outsource.
They've got things like just kind of leveraged out. So for example, Hiya Toys is making some 3 3/4 G.I. Joes now that are highly posable. Super 7 has the license to do their reaction 5 points of articulation G.I. Joes and the Ultimates G.I. Joes, which are like 7-inch based on the cartoon. So, they're dividing up their licenses. So if for those not familiar, Todd McFarlane's Page Punchers are like these little 2-inch figures with 5 points of articulation, and they come with a comic book. They're pretty nice looking. But it's, again, this is the problem with McFarlane. He always goes out and he always tries to do his own scale. He doesn't kind of stick within where the market is. So well as his DC figures do, as well as the Spawn figures might do, they'd do better if they were just an inch shorter, because then it would be in line with everybody else's collection. So the 2-inch stuff is going to be like unto itself. And I, on the retail level, don't see Page Punchers really moving, but I don't have Todd's internal numbers. Maybe it's really great, and maybe this license will really push it to the moon. But at least he's out there trying to do something, trying to give kids a comic book maybe get kids into reading comics. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is they're going to go to a comic book store, and the only thing that's going to be available to them is current comics. Although with Transformers, if they pick up Daniel Warren Johnson stuff, that'll be all right.
If he makes them in short, they won't be bigger than all the other toys and therefore not superior.
Nobody, that doesn't, there's no money.
They made He-Man bigger than G.I. Joe because they wanted it to be a bigger line. So everyone would be like, yeah, they're bigger.
And it didn't last as long as G.I. Joe. It didn't last as long as G.I. Joe, did it?
He-Man's still out there. He's cool.
Yeah, but I mean, like for the life of the line, it didn't have that success run that G.I. Joe did. It died out much quicker.
So a man that is the toy aficionado, that is in the toy selling business, do you think Hasbro got what they deserve? Do you think they can turn this one around? Are you rooting for them?
I think the company gets what it deserves, but unfortunately that filters down to the workers who didn't deserve this. It's never the people that make the decisions that get this in the shorts. So I'm not happy about it because, it's those people that suffer. If they had called all these executives and brought in new people, from other companies with better ideas, then yeah, I'd say like, I'm happy about this. But, I can't cheer for, the lower end of the working for, their workforce being let go for their stupid decisions. So can they rebound? I don't know. I don't think they have the will to. Like, one of the things that they could do for fan goodwill is start rolling prices back. That artificial price increase is bullshit. They should be rolling that back and trying to give fans more value for their money. But I don't see them doing that. That's really hard to explain to shareholders is that you're rolling prices back to, get some goodwill and sell more units. They would move more units that way. The higher prices go, you're going to make more per individual figure, but you're going to sell less figures. So isn't it better to make that up in quantity? Unless they do that, I don't really see them recovering from this.
Stop speaking so much common sense there, Aaron. Now, we are not done. We are done on the YouTube portion of the video. The first subject we always cover there, but you and I are going to be talking about Mark Millar standing up to bullies. We're going to be talking about women suing Disney for being the patriarchy. That ought to be a whole lot of fun. We've also got an update on Jonathan Majors, Kickstarter comic book stuff. You and I are going to hit all the comic book and pop culture news and rumors and all that stuff happening for another hour and 20 minutes.
People should jump in, man. We're going to talk about the controversies of the week.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Okay. We're going to talk about Mark Millar just like coming in like a guy about to have the best luau ever and just roasting cancel pigs on a spit. It's going to be amazing. You should check it out.
It almost feels like Hulk Hogan, except, I would like to hear I'm a real American, but he's Scottish. You know what I'm saying? That's still good. Like, he should be sitting there posing with everybody as he's owning these guys.
What would be a good wrestling theme song for him?